everyone, this is Jacqui Cooper with Crypto Mom 2, and I want to welcome everyone back to this episode. You might find that this episode is actually going to be playing on a few different of my talk shows only because of how important the topic it is. I decided to do the recording on Crypto Mom 2, but you actually might also be hearing this on Jacqui Cooper Travels. So I have a guest on who I've known for a number of years now. It's amazing how fast time flies. And I value her judgment. And she is going to introduce herself in a quick sec. But before I have her start sharing more about her background and why we're actually going to be, talking about this important topic, which is debt reduction, income creation, all that other good stuff. For those that are new to Crypto Mom 2, I'm just going to share a little bit of background about me. First, these shows are not financial advice and they're not legal advice. And so you do have to, whatever you do is invest at your own risk, as well as talk to your own team, or for those that are coming on, like with Eileen, you might want to reach out to her and have her be on your team. So that way, as you kind of navigate what we're going to be talking about, you can add other resources to what you know. My background is that I am a lawyer. And so again, you can also connect with me for the legal side. But I'm also a consultant on the blockchain. And that involves a lot of different things, both from cryptocurrency investigation for those of you that unfortunately might be hacked, to those of you that might be just learning about what is cryptocurrency, what is Bitcoin, what's a non-fungible token, all those definitions. And for those that are new to this, I welcome you. I have just been in this area for about 4 years, which for some, that's really a short time. For others, it's a lot longer. I have interviewed people around the world that actually have been in the blockchain space for over 10, 13 years. They came on board when Bitcoin was just created, and it's amazing the stories that they share. So today, I will be sharing links. It will be in the blog below. So when Eileen or I share, certain things, if you don't have paper and pen, don't worry, just come back to this episode. And we're going to be having an honest discussion about money, both to traditional side, as well as the alternative blockchain world. So Eileen, welcome. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Jacqui. Yeah, I'm doing great. You like my beach background?
I do. As you know, I love travel, and, so beaches are great because they definitely bring joy to a lot of people. And as you and I were talking, they kind of relax us when we're hearing the waves and we're feeling the sun. So I know you were saying that you have the beach scene behind you, besides the fact that you are actually out on the beach right now, but for another reason too. So you want to share more about what you do and
Sure.
why you have the beach?
Sure. Well, it's funny because my husband had given me this background and I had put it onto Zoom, and so many people in networking groups had commented, "Where is that? I love it." And so when I had my marketing person adding information, like the debt and the Ramsey Solutions, being a certified coach, he said, "Why don't we put it on to the background with the beach?" And I said, that's a great idea, because when people start thinking about their money and when they start thinking about debt, it starts to raise anxiety and it starts to make people not comfortable. So to be able to have a beach scene is sort of like, hey, it kind of gives a little levity to it so that somebody doesn't have to be quite as stressed out. So that's sort of what, why I do that. But as far as the background, I'm actually a certified money coach, and I work with individuals and couples mostly, although I do group presentations for human resource departments for companies. But my specialty really is that individual or the couple. And I help them go from paycheck to paycheck to getting out of credit card debt, student loan debt, and vehicle loan debt. That tends to be the space that I spend the most time. Once we can move through that, then we can start saving, we can start putting into retirement and that type of thing. But my specialty really falls within the area of helping them get out of debt.
Which is really important, because I know different ages have different needs. So when you're younger, you're thinking about, your college, your graduate, when you maybe are in your 20s or 30s, you're thinking about your family, a mortgage. Well, we might all have mortgages, but even if you don't have a mortgage, you have rent.
Mhm.
And then when you're now, it's not to say that when you're in your 40s, you shouldn't have been thinking about this earlier in terms of your retirement. But, again, when you're in your 40s, 50s, and 60s, that's when the retirement and then the medical expenses. So there's a lot of different layers involved with finances. And as we kind of navigate our careers or our personal life, our income changes based upon our career path. My career has changed many times. And what I'm earning today is not necessarily what I earned, when I was younger. So there's that. So we're going to get into the alternative income side, but let's talk about the traditional, because again, when you have someone who might be approaching you, how do you help them? What are the things that you want them to think about so they can approach their expenses and how they are budgeting or not budgeting in a way to help them grow and have a lifestyle that they want? Because there's a lot of pieces in here. Sometimes we overspend thinking, oh, well, I can just go ahead and do that. But then later we realize, oh, that was a kind of maybe not the wisest thing to do.
Right. Right. No, it's true. So typically if I have, let's say, a referral from somebody or somebody I'm talking to about something else says, hey, listen, I wouldn't mind talking with you more about what you do and help me, get out of some debt. So typically the first meeting I have is a complimentary consult, and it's usually between 45 minutes and an hour. And it's really an opportunity to get a picture of what somebody, has going on in their life. And oftentimes they'll bring up everything from their kids to their parents to their spouse. They bring up everything. And so when we start to work together at the first consultation, I have them bring their goals there. So we know what their goals are. It might be, I want to get out of debt in the next 3 years. It might be, I want to be able to, bang out that $10,000 credit card, as soon as possible. Or it could be, I want to earn more money in my business. It's all kinds of stuff that people want. And so, but oftentimes it revolves around debt. Someone has the credit cards. Credit cards are the big one. They really are. And the vehicles, depending on the age of the person, are big. And then student loans, they carry people. You were talking about the different age groups. I have people in their 40s and 50s that still have student loans from their 20s. And they're a lot bigger than they were when they were in their 20s, but because they kept deferring them, they just get bigger and bigger and bigger. So a lot of times that's what happens. So we get together for that first meeting. We're talking about goals. I like to have them bring the budget with them as best they can. A lot of people don't even have any idea what their budget looks like, but we'll kind of start to plug it in. I like this software called Every Dollar because it's very simple. It calculates everything for you. It gives you all kinds of ideas like mortgage, taxes, food, electricity. It will break down into some of the categories that almost everybody has. So then from there, we put a strategy together. And what's realistic? Somebody's making $6,000 a month and their bills are $7,500. We've got some changes to do, either that or either we've got to get that debt down or they've got to get their income up, depending on, where the money is going and where it's coming from. So
I really like what you said, either getting debt down or income up. And being an entrepreneur, I've always thought about how do I create alternative income? Because when I was younger, and I was doing just the law side, and a contract got pulled out from under me. And so I realized it was very important for me to always have multiple streams of income, which also helped me personally reduce the debt that I had because of the fact that I had alternative incomes, one which I could use for my everyday standalone expenses, and then another source of income for some of the other things that I wanted to spend on. And for those that are listening, it's not always as difficult as you think to create an alternative income. There are different businesses. People might call them side hustles or whatever. And I'm not talking about the crypto side. I'm talking about the traditional side, and again, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to share with you some things that I've learned, the good and the bad. Because again, you have to find something that works and resonates with you and your family and your time. But I think it's important when you're looking at your expenses or your debt to think, okay, I don't always have to cut something out, but I might have to add something in. And I think, Eileen, you might also agree, if you add a side business, there are more write-offs that you can then possibly take, which will actually lessen your taxes, which increases the amount of money that you have.
That's very true. It's funny, and a lot of people don't realize that when this country, started with, the Declaration and everything, this country was really founded on businesses. And so the tax codes are still in favor of, because you take off all your expenses before you pay taxes, where the average W-2, they pay all the taxes and then they get to live on the rest. And that can add up to be a lot, depending on, how profitable and, how much money goes into the business. So
since my background's law, I know that one of the things that I'm really very gently insistent on when I talk to clients is that they have a will and that they look at estate planning and things like that. And again, if you don't, definitely reach out to me. There's affordable ways that I can share with you, not where you have to charge it, have an attorney charge you by the hour. But how do you plan do you talk to your clients about how do they do estate planning or the wills? I know you're not in the law side, but you're in the finance side. So how do you deal with helping them understand that they have to think about that?
Well, it's the whole package, right? We want to make sure that people not only get out of debt, but that they're protected. So I will usually recommend at least term life insurance. It's pretty inexpensive, even for my age, my husband's age. So that's a must. I mean, we had 2 guys in our neighborhood die in the last year, and they left their wives and their 2 kids under the age of 10 without any life insurance. So especially if people have, kids, it's so important to have that life insurance. And, your house, you leave a house payment to your spouse, and, there's just so much, stress that they already have to go through. So I definitely tell people, term life insurance. As far as wills, I'm a strong advocate of wills. About 40 or 50% of people don't have wills. It goes into probate if you don't have that. And then that means that the government gets more money, which nobody wants. And wills aren't extremely expensive to put together. You would be able to attest to that. Yeah. And then trust. Many people don't have trust. As a matter of fact, I'm in the process of updating our trust. But we've had a will in place for years. So as we still have one under 18 too, that, needs to have guardianship. So, but those are really good questions.
I know that even though we're talking in September, this applies to any time of the year. I know you and I were talking how this is sort of like the last quarter of a year, and people start to think about their taxes. They think about, okay, what do I need to either donate to, or how do I, plan for the next year? It sort of was like the New Year's resolutions of, I'm going to lose 10 pounds, and, that only lasts for a few weeks. But what would you recommend for people actually to take the first step to think about how to get started? In addition to, as I'm saying to everyone, definitely reach out to Eileen so she can actually talk to you. But what do you think the first step is, so people can have an honest, realistic understanding of what it is that their debt bite is?
Well, I think one of the first things is definitely when we take a look at the roadmap, once we kind of set goals, so a few goals of like, what is it that they want? One of the biggest ones I hear is, I don't want to live paycheck to paycheck anymore. That is like 90% of people say that to me. So the first thing we need to do is look at the budget. What's going on? Where are all these, especially these big expenses like mortgage and car payments and, the credit cards? We look at those, all of the stuff. And then we assess, okay, there's $6,000 a month coming in and there's $6,800 of expenses going out. We need to adjust that. We need to either get it under 6,000 so we can start paying down some of that debt, or you got to go get that side hustle and bring up, your income to, a couple $1,000s or whatever, so we can start, your income really has to be over your expenses in order to start tackling that debt.
Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about the traditional side. Now I'm going to kind of talk about the alternative side, which is, the cryptocurrency, the blockchain side. We all know that the cryptocurrency market goes up and down. There's no guarantees. There's a lot of risk involved. So you definitely have to invest wisely and do your own research. One of the things that I'm always concerned about when people are talking about putting funds in is, one, how much money they think that they want to put in, and where that money is coming from. Is it coming from a cash source, meaning savings, or is it coming off of a credit card? So that means that increases the debt, as well as the fact that crypto can go up and down. So even though it might be up if you sell it, then you have the tax consequence if you haven't held it for 12 months, because then you have to pay gains. So there's a lot of ins and outs. I don't know, are your clients talking to you right now about the cryptocurrency market, or what questions do you think that people should be asking as they kind of navigate this?
That's a good question. Right now, I'm sort of at that, beginning, walking down the stairs, in the pool. And so a lot of what we're trying to do is get, a little bit of an emergency fund in place, get those debts in the right direction. Cause then of course the next thought is investing, retirement, saving, being able to save and make money. So that's a conversation as I'm, as I work month to month with people, that all of a sudden we start to talk about, especially when the reality starts to happen that, hey, you know what, I'm starting to actually save money instead of just having it go out every month more and more and more, with more in debt happening. So.
And one of the things that I want to just mention to those that are kind of navigating the cryptocurrency space is, when I first started, with a small investment into an altcoin, my first question is, how do I get it out? Because if it's just sitting there and I've put some US dollars in and I can't use it, then it's worthless to me. You have to always be thinking about how fluid is this? How are you going to get it out in case you want to actually use it, and treat it like a currency, because you can treat it like an investment long term, if you decide to do that, and kind of ride the wave of the ups and downs. But sometimes you want to spend that currency. And so when you do that, you have to think, okay, what steps do I need to use to get it out? And luckily, there's more and more credit cards right now that are being created. However, there are a lot of hoops for that too. So when you are talking to people about saving for retirement, is there, again, I know every situation might be different, is there a certain formula that you suggest that people have for their day-to-day expenses, a certain percentage that they put into savings and retirement? What do you normally have people look at based upon their individual situations?
Yeah, that's a good question. Once we start to really, be banging down that debt and the car and the credit cards and that kind of thing, the goal that I have is that we're going to get to the point where you could put 15% into your retirement. But we need to get the debt down, and we need to get a cushion in place. I usually like to do 3 to 6 months where there's a cushion. So when there's a car repair, when you need to replace, the furnace or whatever, you've got some money in there that's, a safety net.
Yeah.
And so, but once we're at the point where we're actually saving for retirement, 15% right off the top, whether it's, IRAs or whether it's, 401ks or 403bs. I don't do that. That's definitely not my expertise. So I would pass somebody off to somebody that is a retirement expert, that's a fiduciary and that type of thing, for them to get, going on retirement. So,
for everyone who's listening, we're covering a lot of different topics, and but it's important when you're navigating the blockchain space to think about, okay, you have the traditional funds and then you have the non-traditional funds, and it's becoming more mass adoptive right now. So it's what's not traditional today might be traditional tomorrow, but you still have day-to-day expenses. So you're going to have to think, how is your income coming in? How are you spending it? And then what do you have that's liquid that and how do you want to use whatever is liquid? Eileen, I don't think, and I apologize, I know you have your phone number on the screen, but for those that are listening, would you repeat how they could actually contact you?
Sure.
And I will have that information also in the blog below.
Sure. Well, there's a couple ways. If somebody wants to go to my website, it's dawsonservices.godaddysite.com.
Okay.
And if they want to reach me on my business email, it's eileen.m.for.Marie.Dawson@gmail.com.
Sounds good. And so for me, if anyone has any questions, you can email me at cryptomom2consulting@gmail.com. And that will also be in the blog below. And I'll also have some links for you to explore. And one last thing for everyone who's thinking about, just reducing debt, think about also solar. from the perspective that I'm putting solar on my house. There was no out-of-pocket cost to me. I'm replacing my electric with a solar bill. I'm actually getting money back from the solar, and I get a tax credit. So again, and it's insured. So for the next 10 years, the installation and the equipment's insured. So, there's a lot of different ways that, you can actually create more income flow, which will help then allocate funds over to the other side of the equation. So definitely reach out to Eileen or myself so we can kind of share different ideas, and you can kind of put it all into your toolbox and figure out what works for you and your family. Any last minute thoughts, Eileen?
I think you did a good job. Now I'm going to start looking into solar, because we back a few years ago, our builder that, put a rubber roof on our Cape said, I won't guarantee, if you put solar on there, but now I'm hearing, oh no, there's a lot better ways that they could put solar up there without puncturing, our poly, whatever it is, roof. So I'm going to need to look at that, because being a money coach, I am always looking for something good, free, reduced, all those words make me happy.
Yeah, for sure. And helping protect the environment, which we definitely need to do.
Yes.
So everyone, thank you so much for hopping on. Definitely like and share. And remember, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. We're all connected. We're all part of one world. And I look forward to talking to you soon. Have a great one.
Thank you,
Bye,
Jackie.